right, y'all. It's another one-on-one with the supervillain and media resident supervillain, Mr. Jay Washington. You know what we do with these each month? I'm making sure I put my phone on like silent because I don't want it to be, really rude and inconsiderate. But we talk with members of my supervillain squad at Patreon, man. We talk for about at least an hour, and we talk about an array of subjects. We talk about everything from life, sports, nerd stuff. It doesn't matter. Whatever they want to talk about, we talk about. And these conversations are always amazing. And again, one of the favorite. Again, all these are my favorite. All the ones that I do, and I love them for each individual reason. And you'll see as I talk to this next person. Jolene's here with me. What's happening? How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
First of all, I like to
Tired.
say I'm happy to see behind you the Thanos that I painted. I can see it behind you. It makes me so happy. And the Spider Gwen.
Yep.
Thank you for grabbing those. It means a lot. It means a lot to me.
I mean, you did amazing work. So I was like, oh, I really want that Titan because the Mad Titan. So I was like, well, I gotta try to get that.
Thank you. Thank you. How have you been though? How have you been with everything?
Tired. Snow. I mean, I'm lucky. I don't live in Texas, so like, prayers and thoughts go out to everyone there because that's a nightmare.
It's funny because they could have prevented it.
Yeah.
Back in 2011, they were told, like when Rick Perry was the governor or something like that, when they were told to winterize the power plants, because they were like, yo, if you don't, like, we can get cold. And they said you need to winterize them because if not, they can go down and shit can go wrong. And Rick Perry, being like most Republicans, said Texans would rather deal with it than let the government regulate energy, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And now, ta-da!
I remember someone pulling up an old tweet of Ted Cruz is saying, I'll believe in climate change when Texas freezes over.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. I was like...
It's like, way to go, buddy. Also, like
whole state.
Another comedian, like I follow, Kath Barbadero, she said, look, people, mostly because people were making
Cat Alvarado, you mean?
No, Kath Barbadero. She's based out of New York.
Okay.
But like, she's like, look, people, I used to live in Texas. Houses are not built for this. Okay. So like they're not built for the winters like, Northwest is.
They're not built with insulation in them like that.
Yeah. And basements are like designed differently. And like, they don't have snow winter cars basically. So.
And I was just talking with somebody yesterday, and the funny thing, again, using it ironically, is Texans are so stubborn. They're going to keep Ted Cruz as a senator and Abbott as a governor, more than likely.
Yeah, it's
just to stick it to the libs, which is like, yo, you should be past political affiliation when it comes to that. Like,
It's, it's just another notch in a series of wonderful years.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to. I was I don't know if you saw. I fucked my back up.
Like, oh no, I didn't. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I was doing focus. I've been, I'm still working out, and I think I did something, but I know I carry my stress in my lower back. And so I was doing Focus T25. I was doing the core cardio workout, and a lot of it is a lot of lunges and twisting. And of course, to be safe, I make sure I do it. But my lower back was like, yeah. And so yesterday it was just super bad. I put an ice pack on it. I took some pain pills. That didn't really help. The ice pack helped a little bit, but of course it's ice. It melts. Even if I had some frozen food, the heat in my back is going to take, the ice away. So right now, like, I want to work out, but I'm on 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, kind of waiting on that to still kick in.
Yeah.
So
at the beginning of the month, there was the snowfall in December, and that's when we found out our snowblower doesn't really work anymore. But it's like 20 years old, so like that's to be expected. So we ordered like a new one at the beginning of the month after the first snowfall, and then it was supposed to arrive last week, and then they called me like the day before it's supposed to arrive. I was like, hey, do you want it assembled? I'm like, yes I do. Okay, it'll be another week because the person that puts them together only comes in on Wednesdays, and they called me on a Thursday. I'm like, okay. So like, and then it was supposed to arrive Thursday when it started snowing, And apparently, I got a call Wednesday night that I couldn't understand because it was just like mechanical sounding, saying that all deliveries were canceled for Thursday. So I'm like, all right, well, I had to shovel everything out on Friday again, and then it arrived this morning. So
I was like I said, I was just back home over the weekend, and I was out there when they were getting the snowstorm. Like I was like, oh yeah, I remember these days. I was like, it was at my buddy's house, and I was like, I like coming home sometimes to get myself recentered and let go of any stress. But at the same time, I remember I don't have to live through this.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I tell everybody, I spent 35 years of my life in Chicago, and like now it's like, oh, snow is optional for me.
Yeah, that you're lucky on that regard. Yeah, like I say with my mom, I love how snow looks. I don't like the hassle. The hassle's annoying. If it would only land on like lawns and rooftops, that'd be great.
Oh, I was seeing people's cars. This is how I knew how bad it was again when it was Chicago. When people's cars are buried in snow and people have just been like, my car lives here now.
Yeah, yeah. It's hibernating.
It's just my car's here. They're like there's some people who dig out their cars and dig out their parking spots, and dibs is a real thing in Chicago.
Oh, like I have coworkers that live in Philadelphia and they believe the same thing. I'm like, yeah, all right. So like I used to live in like Bethlehem, which, city, but like, I'm like, I'm sorry, like it's law of the jungle. I know that you may have done that work, but if I'm coming home and there's only one spot open, I'm taking it because like
see you days up.
I will risk
learn
it.
the hard way.
Yeah.
Like somebody put a chair out there, they like, yo, I didn't help this spot, and somebody move that chair. That chair is in the back of your window now.
Yeah, like I would never risk doing that, but I'm like, if there's a spot open, look, I'm like, because like you don't own that spot. I'm sorry you had to do the work. I had to do the work to dig out my own thing, but somebody took my spot.
This is true. This is true. But it's like
it's a risk that you have to be willing to take.
If there's just a spot that's just dug out and there's nothing holding the spot, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
If the spot is just dug out, but when somebody puts something there, like a lawn chairs, like this, I've seen way too many people run that risk. Like I was with my buddy and I was like, hey, because I was at her house and I was like, yo, is whoever finna park this truck, did they dig that spot out? She was like, yeah. I was like, okay, because that was a nice truck that I was finna say for to get his windows busted. It's just, it's so crazy. But like I said, seeing cars that it's 20 inches total of snow, 20 plus inches of snow, and cars just covered in it completely. People like there's some people who are like, oh, I need to dig my car out no matter what. But in many of those, it's like, my car lives here now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh man, I remember those days. Like, especially if you need your car. And then it's like, yeah, Chicago's proficient with public transportation, which is a good thing. But when you have fresh snow coming down consistently and they can't plow the streets regularly to get it clean and whatnot, public transportation ain't as reliable as it was. It's like, oh.
Yeah, like I'm lucky, get to work from home. My mom doesn't get to work from home. She doesn't work regularly, because she's mostly retired. She does Weight Watcher stuff. So she's like, I really hope it snows the day of. That way they'll just cancel and I don't have to do it. So
that's good. Yeah.
But that's why I have to dig out so she can get in and out, basically.
Oh, so you got to do it for you're doing it not for yourself, really, for somebody else.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but
I mean, my dad can't do it because he can barely walk because he is not taking care of himself at all. But
oh wow,
yeah, he's got Parkinson's, and he used to work out back before there was a pandemic, and then he just gave up entirely.
You know what? That was one of the things that I've always noticed when it came to the pandemic and people working out. I noticed a lot of people people who who worked out, they were like, all right, I'm gonna find other methods to at least try to keep this going.
Yeah.
But there were some people who just were like, fuck it.
Yeah, that's me. I haven't. I've basically given up. I'm like, and every day I'm like, well, or at least during the fall, it's like, maybe I should start going for walks. And we have a treadmill and that it's a manually operated treadmill. So I'm
it's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you got to push it yourself. And my dad, like he would get on it for like 30 seconds. And I'm like, so like he can barely walk as it is right now because he's just degenerated so much.
Oh wow.
It's depressing, but like he also, I'm pretty sure he doesn't care because he's just got to a point where he just doesn't care about anyone, it feels like. But so that's depressing.
That's another thing when you see a person who you want the best for them, but they don't give a shit anymore. Because then it's like you want to push them, but like, how hard can I push you?
Oh yeah, no, like
when you don't care.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we say this stuff, but it's just he doesn't care. Like so, like no matter like if we ask nicely versus shouting, we're just gonna keep getting the same result. Like his doctors even yell at him from what my mom tells me. So
see, that's when you know I have my mom. Well, my mother used to be like that. I have my family members used to be like that, where it's like when their doctors start yelling and then you don't want to listen to the doctors. I'm the type of person where after I've given all I've got, and then your doctors are yelling and you don't listen. This is me. My hands. I wipe my hands of it because I can't do anything more.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's the problem. We can't do anything. So
yeah, but I'm probably gonna try to work out tonight. I'm gonna probably try to do I'm gonna do a basic Focus T25 workout. I'm gonna go on the original alpha level, just so I can have my body still moving and burning and stuff and all this. Because I can't just because our gyms are open for outdoor workouts, and I was doing them, but I was lifting, and there's only so much you can do because it's not the full array of equipment.
Yeah.
So you're only limited to what you do. So I'm doing my lightweight, heavy reps, stuff like that. I'm doing some of the functional things I could do when the gym was open, but I can't do it all because all the stuff isn't out there. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like, okay, I can go when I want to, when it's open and I feel like going. But then I just like, all right, I'll knock out 25 minutes in here real quick. And long as I don't, I'm going to try to, whatever I do, I'm going to make sure it's not going to kill my back.
Like I miss going to the gym. Like that's the one thing, like I'm much better at my job at home, but like through our job, we got free gym membership. Nice. And like the gym was right near the job. So like I'd finish up working, then I'd go over to the gym like 3 days a week. And like I'd miss that, but like that would just motivate me to go on my own. But like still there's a pandemic and I'm like, I'm not going to a gym right now during the pandemic just because I don't trust a lot of people. Like
no, I understand that. Now you know what? I felt like that at first.
Yeah, like
I felt like that at first, but I think seeing it out here, there was a big push. I know it was a lot of places, but there was a big push out here in California to get the gyms open because everybody was like, yo, your health and your fitness is a thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna fault people that do, especially like you want to get back into wrestling. I'm like, yeah, like people go to the gym for a reason because health is important. And I'm like luckily I'm like, all right, I can get by for now. Like I'm not where I want to be, but
no, I get that. But I also was looking at it like the people, so how everybody's like, oh, the gym can be a cesspool and they be dirty. This is true.
Yeah.
But now, especially with the pandemic, this is how you alleviate some of the riffraff per se, because people who not gonna take it serious, not gonna go, because the people who wanted to stay open gonna do what they need to make sure things stay clean to stay open. You see what I'm saying?
Oh so yeah, I understand.
It was one of those things, but again, I understand. I don't trust as much as I'm always like, I'm taking care. Making sure I'm safe. I'm making sure I'm protected and what needs to be, et cetera, et cetera. I still don't trust a lot of people. Like I'm just like, yo, I've already was a person who was like, I don't like people. Like as a whole, like I don't like people. But this made it even more. Was like, I don't trust you because, when you see people who, I watch people put on masks and I see how they wear them and like how they want to wear them and how the look on their face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, because a lot of times even, and this may be just me, certain people, you could tell people's real reactions. People who own a different type of mask, it's like maybe a design or a cute little thing or whatever.
Oh yeah. I got like a bunch of them.
Right, those are people who take it seriously.
Yeah. Also, it's great. Like when a wrestler I like puts out a mask, I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But that's how you know people who take it serious when they wear masks like that. When you're seeing people with just the regular blue surgical mask, 9 times out of 10 that I've learned, they don't give a shit about this. They just put it on because they had to. They don't want to. So those are the ones I'm even more leery of because I'm like, you're really not with this right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like me, I have way too many. I was like, I'm accessorizing with mask. Like I have the supervillain masks that were made for me. I have the one mask I bought from a store, a leader store that says "Lead Never Follow." I got a Batman mask that DC gave me.
Nice.
I got a mask from because I got a box. I got a big swag box in my closet from DC Fandom with a bunch of stuff, candy and all this other stuff in it. That I was like, what am I going to do with this? I meant to give my daughter the Wonder Woman tiaras, but I keep forgetting to take them to her. Then I got the stuff from the boys. They sent Amazon sent the thing for the boys. There was a mask in it, and so I have that. I bought one of those, the initial mask. Everybody was buying the training mask. I bought it because I was like, yo, if I'm gonna start walking and running, I might as well get this while it's cheap now. Then people were like, oh, I can wear this on airplanes. The airlines was like, no, you can't. Airlines have even gotten more stricter on their mask policies.
Oh.
And so
that's good to hear, I think.
Yes, because what first thing they stopped was bandanas. No, can't do that. So you can't do bandanas. You can't do the neck gaiters. So
those are the ones that
neck scarves that people were doing.
Okay.
Yeah, no neck gaiters. The training mask, any type of mask with a valve, you cannot do it. They've made sure they're like, yo, if you don't wear a mask, you don't have to wear a mask. And if you feel like you can't, like they're straight up with it. If you feel like you can't, we can refund. We can give you a voucher or try to put you on somewhere else, but you're not flying with us. I was like,
That's good to hear.
So, because everybody was nervous about how airlines were handling things. To be quite honest, everybody was like, "Oh, airlines just letting people, do what they do." Because at first, Southwest was like, "We're not letting anybody sit in middle seats," which was cool. So you eliminate things. But then you had United was like, "Fuck it, buy all the tickets." United was out here like buy everything. American was kind of like that, but also American, you see a whole cleaning crew come in consistently. Like after a flight lands, here comes a disinfecting cleaning crew. So they making sure, and they're opening doors and vents, circulating air out. And then, they got HEPA filters that are circulating fresh air in. I'm like, okay, cool. Also, I sit with 2 masks on and like, I'm not going to play with y'all. So
yeah,
it's a whole different thing. It's like, also I've learned that this may sound bougie to anyone watching. I only want to fly first class from now on.
I mean, I've never done it, but I hear it's delightful, so I don't think anyone could fault you for that.
Oh, so I've done it. I think I've flown first class 4-5 times now.
Yeah.
And not only the comfort of the seat, of course, the way would you, because, like now also, because I know you haven't flown, most airlines used to do like food service going through the aisles. They cut that out. But if you went first class, would you like a tuna sandwich or a fruit and cheese tray? I was like, I'll take the fruit and cheese.
Yeah. I remember when I was a child, I think I had like breakfast on a plane. And as a child, I enjoyed it. But like, I'm sure it wasn't good. But like, I was like, ooh, pancakes and whatever. I'm like, this is fun. But also, like, that was way back in the 80s. So
also, they don't charge for alcohol. So I was like, because I was up. So when I went to Chicago, what I try to do now is, unless I have to stay longer, I make sure I go short so I don't adjust to the time. So no matter what I'm doing, it's always 2 hours behind when I'm there. So I got up at like 8:00 Chicago time. It was 6 in my body's time.
Yeah.
And I'd been ripping and running, getting ready to the airport and all that shit. And so I'm on the flight and I thought I was going to fall back asleep and I couldn't. I was like, I saw one dude was like, yeah, can I get a Jack and Coke? I was like, oh yeah. And I don't drink pop anymore. I've stayed away, but I was like, I will take one. They gave me a whole can of Coke. This is a bubbly for everybody wondering. I don't sparkling water, but they gave me a whole can of Coke. I poured the little Jack Daniel bottle in, boom, and just splashed a little Coke in there. Luckily I had my water bottle afterwards. I was like, I'm good. I was like,
Nice.
All of a sudden I felt the thing was like, all right, we're making our final descent to Los Angeles. I was like, well, I needed that.
Nice.
Well, I felt that, but it was, that is just, it was just that there's a level of comfort. And you're paying for that.
I can only imagine. So,
I don't,
maybe
the amenities,
someday,
because the amenities are the amenities are one thing. A lot of people worry about, I'm all about the just comfort level because, wanting to be able to stretch out my leg. I got bad knees from wrestling, so I need to be able to stretch my knees out occasionally, shit like that. And so it's just cool.
Yep.
I was going to ask you, I have not followed because I'm very disappointed.
Is it wrestling? Like I keep coming in. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to talk. Wow, wrestling keeps doing something to make me talk about them. But
it's going to happen. I haven't followed it because I'm very disappointed in it. I'm disappointed in the AEW Women's Tournament.
Yeah.
Because there is, I get you want to use some Japanese talent. I get that. But you eliminated a hell of a lot of women you had right there.
So like when they announced it was like a US side and Japan side, I'm like, all right, this is super exciting. We're gonna showcase some people that maybe a lot of people don't know of. Like there's some I don't know of, there's some I did know of. But I'm like, all right, this is gonna happen. Oh, all right, the Japanese side is all on YouTube on Monday. And I'm like, so it's just the women's tag tournament all over again. And then like, I saw some defenses of, and like, this is a fine idea. I'm like, look, it's easier to share with friends. I can just give them the link. I'm like, yeah, sure. But you could air the matches on Dynamite and then post the matches on YouTube afterwards. And they're like, well, they might not want to show like this empty arena on TNT. I'm like, they did that earlier last year. Remember, they were in QT Marshall's training center. Like, for a month.
Here's what I don't get. They act like it's something brand new. People have, like you said, they were doing that.
Yeah.
Also, you're telling people, here's the match from the Japanese version of the tournament.
And like, so like, and then, so we got first two matches from the US side. And then during the second one, they announced, the rest of the round one matches will also be on YouTube. And so, like, people are going to tune in, like, wait, who's this? How did they win? Who did they beat? Because you're not sure. And now they announced a thing's going to be on, like, BR Live or Bleacher Report, like, a service that even less people use than YouTube. And, like, I think there was an announcement, like, all right, this week it's going to be on this internet thing. Then it's going to be on YouTube. And then this match will be on Dynamite. And then Revolution is when they face Shida. So it's like, you could have built up. I mean, I'm sorry, this requires them to care about the women, and that's how I feel basically, that someone in charge that's a billionaire does not care about women.
Well, it's
I mean, like, I will pin everything on Tony Khan because I don't know him.
The thing is with Tony Khan, you got a big wrestling mark who has money, number one.
Yeah.
All that at the end of the day, that's all Tony. And people will say, well, isn't every wrestling promoter? No, they're not. I mean, let's just be real. Case in point, Vince McMahon is not a mark. Vince McMahon is a businessman. As out of touch as he may be.
Yeah, like Tony Khan and was it I can never remember his name, but NWA guy. Also basically a money mark. Like he was a fan.
Money marks. That's all it is.
Yeah. And like
it was Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
That was all it is.
And like
money marks.
But like when I was watching NWA, he was definitely he at least showcased the women, but
because he was around, that was him being in Chicago, being around AAW and Shimmer. He was all Shimmer and AAW ran in the same facility. Cool. So he would see, okay, there are solid women wrestlers. He knew it, couldn't deny it.
Yeah. So like, with the why I blame everything on Tony is like, we were told like, or the rumor was Kenny, Brandy, or basically in charge of the women's division. Then after a while on social media, they both basically say, no, I'm not in charge. So I'm like, well, that only leaves one person left, and that is the owner of the company. So I will pin everything on them.
I think it's people don't want to take blame. Because Kenny, from what I heard, Kenny Omega still has control of the women.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, because like he's tweeting all this stuff, obviously not wanting to take blame, I get, but like when he tweets out, hey, tweet out the network telling him you want to see more women's matches. I'm like, Kenny, isn't this your job? Like,
no. This is why he's doing that, and it's smart. He can say it all day. He needs the fans to say it.
I know. Yeah.
He needs the fans' response. I get where you're coming from, but he can say it all day in meetings. He needs the network to see and hear the fans say it. Yeah. So that makes sense for him to say it. Yo, that's why if you ever see people on Twitter go, tag, when they say like, yo, tell them you want me on this or tell them you want me a part of that. That's why, because the person themselves saying it has less power than the audience that it reaches.
Like, I can understand that, but I also think if Tony Khan's the money mark and Kenny Omega tells him, hey, I need and want this, I would think Tony Khan might listen, but I don't know how assertive Kenny is on a business relation.
But also,
And
it's about what TNT allows. That's
yeah,
another thing.
yeah, like I can understand that, but like then there was the theory going around that TNT is the reason that there's only one women's match, and so I'm thinking, I'm like, you're trying to tell me before the show ever aired, TNT told them they could only have one women's match and it had to be less than 10 minutes, and at 9:27, like that's a stretch for me to believe. Like,
well, you got to remember the shows. Okay, one thing about the shows, no matter what, we know you just saying the time that we've seen it every week, because you and I have talked about this religiously.
Yeah,
the shows are structured. Again, it's a television show.
Oh yeah,
it's 4 or 5, however many commercials you get. It's maybe a 5-6 act show. Mm-hmm. So in the beats of the show, when they had to break it down, a network exec who, before they approved it, what time it goes, literally was like, put the women's match here.
Yeah, like I can sort of see that, but like, I don't know. I think Tony, like, it's all going to come down to me. Like, I don't know if Tony cares about women. like he can. Everyone said he can list off name of any single match. I'm like, can he list off 5 women's matches? That's what I want to know. Like, because like they don't seem that, like, Cody very clearly has strong representation for the Cody segments. The Young Bucks, the same. Kenny, the same. There is no strong representation for the women's division. Like, the tag division clearly has, like, they had a whole tournament. The women's division, they had, all right, I don't know if it was the first or second Dynamite, but they had, like, they did sort of what the men did. They had the Battle Royale to determine a number 1 contender, and then they had another match. But, like, you're crowning the first women's champ, and it's the middle of the show. Like, you couldn't even give them the main event. And I get the main event, they wanted that whole Jake Hager arrival to show up for Chris Jericho, which, like, okay, I don't know how popular Jake Hager. I know he was in WWE and he's presumably friends with Chris Jericho because that's the way they seem to act on media and whatnot.
Well, also they have it as former world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I get that, but like, I'm not a fan, so that's why I'm like, all right, Jake Hager. But like, this upcoming Dynamite, we have Jake Hager versus Brandon Cutler and Jon Moxley versus Ryan Nemeth. And there's a whole women's tournament that doesn't seem to have a match this week. And I'm like, you're telling me those 2 matches should be on Dynamite before the tournament that you're building up? Like, Jon Moxley being on Dynamite, perfect sense. He's in a story with Kenny Omega, like, for the title. They're having an exploding barbed wire death match, which I'm excited for because I'm like, oh, I want to see how you do this. But like, they couldn't have built like Sheeta facing some other woman, a story with some other woman. Let's say like during, probably not Penelope because she was dealing with the wedding stuff, but like some other heel could face her at Revolution, and you stretch out the tournament.
2 things: the executive, the network exec, right? Whoever's saying that, or if it's the combination of a network exec, Tony Khan. But number 2, and I hate to say it, look at AEW's fan base. Now, pro wrestling as a whole, as a fan base, pro wrestling fan base as a pro wrestler myself can tell you it can be the worst.
Yeah.
However, when you look at AEW is mark over mark heavy, and it's that indie shindy mark heavy, the ones that really are like, they're the type of marks that only like Bailey and Sasha because they look at their butts. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I get it, but like,
yeah, they're good in the ring, but they look like Liv Morgan. They don't care about Liv in the ring. They care about Liv's ass or Carmella's tits, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So those type of fans are not going to tune in per se to the match. So this way, it's like, it's no loss if you put it on on YouTube.
Yeah. And like, then there was the story of, well, the women's segments aren't getting good ratings, but you also put at the same time for months, you have a commercial in the middle and it's less than 10 minutes. And most of like the comeback of the match is during the commercial, which people don't watch the picture-in-picture. I bet you people don't watch that. Like they tune out probably.
Depends on the match. It depends on whatever match it is.
Yeah,
like it's
but like
if
there's
it's a high profile match, they watch in picture-in-picture.
Yeah, there's rarely a big story moment that happens in the picture-in-picture to encourage people to
Oh
watch
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
But like, and now I don't know the veracity of this, but somebody said Serena and Riho had like the biggest rating this past week. And I'm like, all right, well, the return of Riho makes sense. Also, wasn't 927, and they also had a much longer match than I think every other match on the card. So I'm like, wow, it's amazing. Like when you build things up. But anyway, wrestling is hurtful a lot of times. It's like, luckily, I've been getting into Tokyo Joshi Pro. I watched like they had they had a show last night and they have another one tonight. It's a whole tag tournament thing. I'm like, all right, this is fun. I get what I want. I don't understand what's going on, but there's a Twitter feed to translate. So
I just think it's it's unfortunate. It took somebody to finally talk to Vince McMahon. First and foremost, let's go that way.
Oh, yeah.
Took somebody to finally talk to Vince to say, yo, you have women wrestlers. You don't have divas, you don't have knockouts, you have women wrestlers that can do just as much, if not as better than the men. Let them do their things.
Like,
and then
there was the whole social media movement about it.
Yes.
But AEW needs that, basically.
Well, also AEW, but again, the problem is we're talking about a global conglomerate in the WWE that when that women's revolution was starting, it still was a global thing. You had women from around the world tweeting to the WWE. You won't have that much you won't have that same reach per se with AEW, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's depressing. Like I just can't stop being depressed by it. Like
I get it. I get it. Like, I just think the thing is, it's
like last April they were supposed to have a Philly show, and like I got a ticket for it. Now they kept getting pushed back, and like every week I debate just refunding that ticket but like I've got like a 5th row seat facing the hard cam on the floor, so I'm like I don't do it because I'm like, I really want to just take some signs to say, hey, the last time Dynamite had a second women's match was December of 2019. Like, that's how long ago. Like, it has been this many days since you've had more than one women's match.
No, didn't they have two, like a couple
on a pay-per-view, but not on Dynamite.
No, outside of pay-per-view.
Nope, not on Dynamite.
Or was it just okay? Maybe I'm not thinking.
They've had multiple segments.
That's what I'm probably thinking. I'm thinking segments.
Like there was one night there was like 4 women's segments. It was like it gave me hope for a while.
That's what it was.
And coming up, they have the
segments.
There's the March 3rd show. It's the one with the mixed tag match that's also going to be on it. So like that'll be 2 matches to feature women, but not technically 2 women's division matches. But like it'll be interesting because we'll see how Jade does.
So what do you think as a whole, besides the blanket answer of put more women's matches on, what do you think AEW should do?
What was the final part?
Besides the blanket answer of just have more women's matches, how do they integrate? How do you feel they integrated and appease the fans in a sense?
Well, it's hard to like look. As someone just watching from the outside, you can say, hey, why don't you do this? But like, well, for one thing, we don't need a gender reveal segment on Dynamite. You could just do that on social media, Brandy.
Yeah, because here's the thing. It would have been a gender reveal party, but guess what? We have access to a TV show. So yeah.
But I
was like, they didn't need that. But go ahead.
It's like, well, and then the other joke I had was like, well, you can't have a show without Cody. We had that 1 month that was too long apparently, which was a great month, but
because he was filming the Go Big show.
Yeah. And then he came. Well, we don't need to talk about that because that's just a sad moment with coming back and getting the title back off Brody. Because none of us knew what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
But like, Otherwise, like outside of like, I mean, you need to think like, do the Young Bucks need to face random team for 20 plus minutes on a Dynamite? Probably not. Like, does John Moxley need to face Ryan Nemeth? No, he doesn't. Like, he's John Moxley. This other guy theoretically apparently does not work there. Like, he's, as far as people know, he's just like visiting like Matt Cardona was or Cardona was. So like if you like, you could just have Mox and Kenny cut some promos and then they're covered. Like, or they do another like arena brawl towards the end of the show, like to close things out. Because like, you're building up to a death match, so there's got to be more like building up to that probably. It's what they need to do. I feel like they need to hire an actual television writer, like to at least pitch ideas for stories for people that don't have stories. Like, I get that people that came from WWE don't want everything completely written out, but you don't need that. You can just like, all right, here's what we have, the idea that we have for this. But like, like I don't work in the business, so I can just postulate on like,
no, that's why. But that's why I asked, because it's good to speak those things out, because it's like you have them in your head and you're like, well, maybe this. Of course, so they do have a few TV writers. They don't have a full. Again, they don't, as much as it really pains me to be like, people keep saying they don't have the money WWE has. Yes,
they do.
They do. Like, let's not do that.
But another thing for Dark this week, we got Eddie Kingston versus JD Drake. Now, a match that I'm excited to see, but like, I don't know. I feel like Eddie Kingston's in the middle of his own story that I don't know if he should be wrestling JD Drake on Dark in the middle of all this. Like,
well, they doing the whole thing, but they do Team Taz on Dark. So, I mean, yeah, they doing Team Taz on Dark, and they thing with Darby Allin and Stink, which God,
I'm so tired of that. I'm just so tired of them. Like, Sting, cool. I'm like, oh, this is going on a long time. But like, someone always say, well, they have these matches on Dark to basically pad their rankings numbers. I'm like, yeah, but the rankings are made up. They don't need that. And also, they often say, well, sometimes the quality of a win is more important than the number of wins. I'm like, then what's the point of the rankings?
Who has said that?
Cody said it, like way back in the early beginning days. Of course, Cody said it. He was the most online. Something he and Brandy both needed to learn: stop being online.
Well, also, I think the thing too has happened with they kept talking about the rankings. The rankings would actually matter, and then it gets to a point sometimes where it's like, do the rank? Because every time somebody starts thinking, do they really matter? And then you're like, oh no, they do. So then they start showing, because again, John Moxley's record is 22 something, and okay, he's the number one contender rightfully. I have nobody with 22 wins, like one loss and one tie or something. No one else has 22 wins on AEW for this year. Okay, fine.
Like, the rankings are confounding because, like, all right, so when he first loses it, I'm like, well, he's still just the number one contender. It's the classic WWE of it. Like, if you just look at the rankings, nobody else deserves it because he still only lost one match.
Right.
But like, I don't know. Like, I used to, like I said, I was a Chikara fan, and I love the Chikara idea. All right, the more matches you win, you get so many points, then you're eligible to challenge for a title. You lose a match, you lose those points. I'm like, all right, this is pretty simple because like they just did 3 points. You win three singles matches, you get 3 points. Then you can challenge for a title. You lose a match, you lose the points. You lose the title, all your points are gone because like you have to start from the start. I'm like, all right, somebody should steal that. I think a promotion out in New Zealand did like which is like a fun little thing, sort of like they have also like crazy apocalypse stories going on from it. I can't remember the full name of the promotion, but like, all right, like they they had more points basically, but like, and like you get more points for submission or whatever. So I'm like, but it's the same general idea. You get this many points, you get to challenge the champion. I'm like, all right, yeah, but like, they wanted to make it feel more like a real sport thing, but wrestling is not a real sport. I I don't know many people that love wrestling that watch it because they love real sports.
Well, I know people who watch it who love the athleticism behind it.
Same. But like, I don't know many that are under the delusion. I'm like, yeah, no, this is like MMA. I'm like, it's not.
Yeah,
Like, even Josh Barnett's Bloodsport is not MMA. It's just a ringless wrestling match.
That's all it is. It's a ringless wrestling match.
Or ropeless, yeah, but
yeah. It's in the ring with no ropes, which means everything it requires you to be a little more technical.
Yeah, which is fun sometimes.
Yeah,
like I was super excited when great for Chris Dickinson. He got to wrestle John Moxley at the last one, because I really enjoyed Dickinson, and like they had a good match. This one, the upcoming one, I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't care about you as much, David Boy Jr. So, and I love Moxley's tweet of 0 fucks. I do not care.
Well, probably because Davey Boy's probably finna get re-signed.
All right.
They probably finna because rumor is he's finna get re-signed and they're gonna put him on NXT UK.
Happy retirement. Well, so on one of my Discords, we have this running gag when somebody gets signed by WWE. Whenever it's like a big popular dude that gets signed by WWE, he's like, well, all right, happy retirement, make that money.
Mm-hmm.
But then for women, we're like, well, actually, they'll probably get the chance to do good matches. They'll have more of a chance to wrestle than they would if they are on AEW, because WWE uses women more. So it's that weird biased thing, but also NXT UK, I don't know. It exists still. Mako Satomura is there, and that's cool, but it'd be we'd probably enjoy it more if she was just on NXT regular, but we know that she has a long history of working in Europe, so that's probably why she's there.
I mean, I felt like that for a while with the NXT UK brand. I was like, okay, at some point you're just gonna pull most of this talent over anyway.
Yeah,
you're gonna pull most of the talent into NXT anyway, and then if you feel good enough about them, you may put them on the Raw, SmackDown, depending on how you feel.
Yeah,
but it's like, what are we doing?
WWE's huge. They're starting NXT Evolve. So all right, here's the developmental for the developmental, which is technically the third brand, but it's still considered a call up when you go to Raw or SmackDown. So it's all right, the weird hierarchy in their own language.
It's like now you want to get, so it's like the double A's and triple A's. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, but NXT isn't the minors in a sense, because if you think about it, no matter how people feel, Finn Balor is still a universal champion who was in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, NXT still fun. I oftentimes wish I would watch that more, but I don't know. There's so much.
No Vince. There's Vince, but there's no direct Vince. It's Sean, Hunter, and a few others.
Yeah,
and they understand.
And maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just the nostalgia thing of it, but I feel like it was at its best when it was just an hour-long show. But I don't know. There's still good stuff happening. I know that much.
I'm one of those people that were I just knew when I heard 2 hours and going to USA, I was like, all right, this is a financial move. I get the business major in me always understands the financial moves, no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a money move. But at the same time, now you're under the network's laws per se. Whereas when NXT was on the network, on the WWE network, they do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
There's no regulation for them. Whereas now you're under USA, which is NBC Universal. So now you gotta adhere to their rules per se. Yeah, you get a little more freedom because you have tenure with the company. You've shown that you've proven that you can bring them ratings, advertising dollars, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, I was like 2 hours. I was like, okay, cool. Also, because it allows them to showcase more talent.
Yeah, there's that. AEW is doing that with Dark, but they were making Dark longer than Dynamite. I'm like, no, this is too much. I do not want this.
Dark does not need 15 matches.
No. And then I think it was this past week, they still had like 12 matches, but in an hour. I'm like, that's not solving the problem. Like, because they
I
don't
saw
want to
that. I was like, that is so dumb.
like the theory is they don't want to like bleed into Impact's time zone, which I'm like, all right, well that's nice, but you could just have less matches. You know that, right? Instead of like a bunch of squash matches.
Right. You need, again, that it pads the rankings.
Yeah. And it's
You
like,
have a bunch of squash matches, all it does is pad your rankings.
yeah.
And you're like, all right, I get what you're doing. So now somebody who all of a sudden we saw 1 week on Dynamite who was 3-2. Next thing you know, after seeing them week in and week out on Dark, all of a sudden they pop up, they damn near 7-2. And you're like, I ain't seen them on no fucking. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And like I enjoy Dark, but that's mostly because like, well, I mean, I like seeing more women's matches. I like seeing the lesser named people, but also Taz and Excalibur are so enjoyable to listen to. They are just very fun on commentary.
Well, because Taz don't give a fuck. But
Yeah.
to me, Excalibur is the worst.
Oh, really?
Because here's why. So I get what he's trying to do, but he's trying to convey what we saw if you watch the indies, what you see on the indies. He's trying to convey it that same way. The problem is once you hit TNT, you are no longer the indies. No matter whether you want to acknowledge it or not, you are now mainstream pro wrestling. And you're on a network that hasn't had wrestling for a while. So now you have to adjust to that level of talking. And when you saying things like Tope Suicido and all this stuff, yeah, we get it. But if you and some people will fault me for saying this, but if you watch the WWE, they're not going to call it a Tope Suicido. They're not going to call it all these the actual Mexican names of them of a lot of these moves.
With the one caveat, Mauro Ranallo will call them all that.
Mauro was but Mauro was a special beast on the commentary mic. Like,
that's what I think. That's why like Excalibur gives me Mauro feels. That's why I like him, and also like I still like Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross. I could deal without Jim Ross, no problem. Like I think he might be maybe happier if he retired from commentary, but I don't know. I think he loves commentary, but like
I personally believe Jim Ross don't give a fuck no more.
But like he called Kenny the WWE champion. Like he makes a lot of flubs, and like sometimes we listen too carefully. Like, does he care? Does it, like, or he's too horny a lot of times with the women?
I mean, like, bro, we get like, okay, anybody, man or woman, sees somebody they think they're attractive. They have thoughts. We understand this.
It's like that's
damn, Jim Ross.
It's like that's a whole load of a woman. I'm like, okay, we get it, Jim.
Like, okay, Mr. Ross, thank you for letting us know what you're really thinking right now. Because, jeez,
yeah, it's a lot sometimes.
Why they pull Jerry Lawler ass off there? Because
Jerry, then they bring him back for pay-per-views.
I mean, you want that? There's a feel to it. There's
there's nostalgia for a lot of people.
But like I listen to the NXT commentary team. Like you've got fucking Nigel McGuinness, you've got Beth Phoenix and Wade Barrett, and sometimes Vic Joseph, depending on however they mix it up, or whichever combination of three. And hearing Wade Barrett is like, bro, I just want to see you back in the ring.
I love his voice though, so I'm like, I don't mind. You have a great voice.
The British strongness of a man's voice. You're like, okay. And then you hear Nigel McGuinness, you're like, yeah. And Vic Joseph, and then Beth Phoenix is trying, like, Beth is getting better. She's getting better. Because at first, it's so funny because you can tell wrestlers, we're taught how to talk on the mic. Yeah. But there's a difference from just talking in a promo than doing color commentary. And consistently being a certain way.
Yeah, like because I listen to Veda Scott's Twitch, and I've heard her and do commentary for like Rise, and possibly Shimmer sometimes. But I know her and Allison Kay used to do commentary for Rise, and like they both talk about how much they love doing commentary and like how it is like a different thing, like they they had to get used to doing because like And it's like, yeah. So like it, it's fun and enjoyable. Like, but it's also hard. Like I took a commentary class once at the Factory, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is hard. This is
I did
not easy.
one. I did. I called a show. We had to do the commentary. I called a show with my boy Johnny LaQuasto, who was former WWE talent. And again, I know how to call stuff watching it, but it was so different having to be that him being the play-by-play, me being the color with the notes and everything. It was such a different vibe in that moment. I was like, okay, I get it. I sat because it's one of those things where once you're doing it, you're like, and I'm listening to Johnny, and I'm like, I get it. I get it now. And I see how much he put into it. But again, when you hear talent that goes from being in the ring to now behind the desk, like to me, the most flawless transition I think I've ever seen is Samoa Joe.
Oh yeah, he's so good at it.
He's the most flawless transition I've ever seen go to the desk.
Yeah, like my favorites. I mean, obviously, Bobby Heenan's going to be a favorite for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura. Like those are like the ones that a lot of people compare. Samoa Joe is just so good at it.
It's just like, bro, I know you had a head injury, and that 6 weeks was many, many, many moons ago now from you to have to come back. I also can get, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, like I may not like them as a person, but Austin Aries on commentary, he was enjoyable.
Oh.
Like, but like there's like, yeah, Samoa Joe, Wade Barrett. I'm like, I'd love to see you wrestle, but you're very good at what you're doing,
I
and
hear Joe
you
on
don't have to risk
commentary.
yourself.
I hear Joe on commentary. I'm like, I can literally. This sounds so fucked up to say, but I can literally watch Raw with just Tom Phillips and Samoa Joe.
Mm-hmm.
No real full disrespect to Byron Saxton, but Phillips and Joe just give me that back and forth that I want.
Yeah. Oh no,
Like,
I get like. I think the last time I enjoyed Byron on commentary was when he was doing an NXT. It's been a long time since I've really enjoyed Byron, but like I
which
think that's because he's been given so many forced characters while on the main shows, like where he was Shane McMahon's just like constantly butt kissing the McMahons on SmackDown. Was like,
yep.
why?
Can you imagine though? I don't know if you ever noticed this. Can you imagine your career is to be in the ring as a performer, right?
Yeah.
So when you get a performer, you get assigned to the WWE. What's your number one goal if you can? Headline WrestleMania, right? In the ring. Then all of a sudden you told, we putting you behind the desk. That's gotta hurt for a while. Because you gotta swallow all of your pride now because everything you've worked for, busting your ass training, all that now goes for naught unless they decide to give you a little gimmicky bullshit match or do something. You know what I'm saying? Because like,
Yeah.
he was that. Who else was it? For the longest, Dio Madden was the dude till they decided to give him Mace. Dio Madden was the guy like that. Was Dio Madden back in the day when the primetime players had Abraham Washington?
Which is worse? Being told you're going to be commentary or being made a ref?
So we're talking Drake.
Well, no, I was thinking of Aja Pereira.
Well, yeah,
but also Drake, yeah. But like, I was more of a fan of Aja. So
yeah, but Drake is more of a different because I don't know too much who Aja is. What show is she on? What show is she on? She on WWE?
I know she became one of the refs, possibly on NXT. But
okay.
like, I know, like, because I used to watch her. So
I think it sucks too to get told you're going under the stripes, but also if you want the job, you're gonna take it.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna fault people not taking the job, but like, I think at least, yes, you're gonna have to swallow pride, but at least when commentary, you're still gonna get the chance to work WrestleMania, and you might still become somebody else's iconic commentator that can make like something like wonderful.
I get what you're saying.
But like the refs don't have as much like indie refs I've seen that can be very much part of the show. They can be their own character.
Stop that.
Yeah.
WWE was one. They were like, because I know a bunch of refs, and they were one of the biggest things are the only personalities that are supposed to be there are those on camp or the wrestlers, managers, and that's really it.
Yeah.
Backstage personalities and commentators really aren't supposed to have a personality per se.
Yeah. Which is not something I agree with because,
I
like,
don't
well,
either.
I've seen it differently, and I'm like, like I said, Jakara, Bryce Remsburg, total personality when he's reffing.
Have
Like,
you ever seen? Have you seen the jump on the video with me and Bryce?
no, I'll have
So
to.
from Chikara 2009, 2010. And it was me, it was the Soul Touchers, me, Willie the Bomb Richardson, Marche Rocket, and it was versus team CZW. It was Greg Excellent, Pinky Sanchez, and I can't remember who the third Beef Wellington. So it was the three of us. Me and Greg Excellent came up with a spot to do the Apache jump on it in the middle of the ring. And a part of the spot was we would get Bryce involved.
Oh yeah,
And Bryce was like, yes,
yeah,
Bryce is so
easily.
game for it. And so Bryce is because again, Bryce came from Chikara, so Bryce understands. But when you look at the business, it was always like that. The WWF, their refs were part of the stories. And it wasn't until, I think the whole refs, the Hebner shit and all that, when he was like, yo, y'all are just referees. That's it. Like you might take a bump.
Yeah,
If you notice, ref bumps in the WWE is like slim to none. It has to be something really major to cause a ref bump, but they don't allow them to be personnel. It's like they're the third person in a match or the fifth person in a match.
Yeah, theoretically, well, like from the seminars that I've had that Bryce has taught, like theoretically, the ref has the most power in a match. Like they're supposed to be like when a wrestler pushes them, like he always like, no, it's like, isn't it much more fun when the wrestler gets up in the ref's face, the ref gets in the wrestler's face, like, and when like the cowardly heel's like, oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm like, yeah, those are great moments, and like that's the one, like as much as AEW upsets me, it still does a lot of things that I love. Like, because their refs, like, I mean, Bryce still has a personality when he's reffing matches. Like, he's still put upon and exasperated. He had the whole segment with Eddie Kingston because they grew up, they trained together. Like, they're like,
they came up together.
Yeah. So he's like, when Eddie has his arm wrapped around Bryce's head, he's like, why did you say I quit? I didn't quit. And like Bryce getting to talk on TNT. I'm like, congratulations, Bryce. That's awesome. Like Aubrey became super popular so quickly. And like, she's just the one getting in Chris Jericho's face on the pay-per-view. And it's like, oh, hell yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful when it happens now, but again, that's the difference with what WWE is doing with their refs with AEW. AEW is going back to the letting refs be part of the show.
Yeah. And I think like the major players in AEW are still very like Young Bucks are still very indie mindset. Like I don't think like they've left the indies, but or the indies haven't left them. Is that the proper terminology?
Yeah,
like
they are very. Again, I understand what Matt and Nick are. You're businessmen now. You are executives, but there's still there's this indie mindset because it's like because they were shit on so much by the WWE and mainstream fans.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because they were shit on so much, they were like, "Well, fuck you. We finna keep doing what we do." Which, to that extent, I get it, but I don't. I'm like, I get you want to rub it in people's faces, but also, yo, you can be more.
Okay, so before we run out, because it's getting close, hopefully we'll get to talk more about this next time. But I wanted to discuss the comic book stuff with you.
Okay.
Because obviously I send you the emails and like the opinion of like dark superheroes and like specifically how you had the comment where like DC has a lot of dark superheroes, which I disagree with. Like there may be some dark, depressing origins for some of them, but like the majority of their lifespan, they're still like Bruce Wayne's origin is depressing.
Yeah.
But it's never really mattered. Like that's just the setup for why he does what he does. it became a thing once direct movies started showing it over and over again.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like I mean, Batman six or like Adam West Batman talks like, well, my parents died from a crime, and so like it's just Adam West, and that show is not dark at all, obviously. Like, but they bring up like, yeah, no, this is why I fight crime because my parents were killed, and like, I mean, like I think it was basically the '80s when things changed. Like Frank Miller and The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen came out, and people took the wrong lessons from Watchmen,
of course,
and probably also Frank Miller, because like he wanted Batman's like big brooding ninja. I'm like, I mean, yes, but Batman, like I think remember like I think there was a period where Batman cannot be happy. Like the DC superheroes of DC cannot be happy.
They're not allowed happiness, no matter what.
Which is like I disagree with, because Batman like Bruce Wayne probably enjoys being Batman. Otherwise, he probably would have stopped.
Yeah, I think they've explored that. It was either in a comic or a cartoon that the reason he's Batman is because he doesn't know how to be Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, and even beyond that, though, like when he's like chasing Kite Man, like, or I think a good example is actually Batman Returns, when like a penguin pops up out of the water and shoots a rocket at him, and then he turns his head with like this little confused smirk. Like, what was that? So like Batman probably enjoys the ridiculous, like when the Joker's up to stuff, things is serious, obviously. But like it's like, I'm fighting the penny plunderer today. Oh, this is the part of the job that I'm enjoying. like oh, okay, there's crazy quilts at it.
Well, I think Batman's an adrenaline junkie.
Oh yeah, I can agree entirely to that. Like
I think he's an adrenaline junkie, and his adrenaline is fighting crime, which is why, again, for someone, again, it's a good thing. It's a good thing he doesn't have to be the face of Wayne Tech.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
he is when the story needs him to
when
be.
the story needs it. Other than that, yeah, when the story calls for him to be the face to be there, he's there. Other than that, he's hardly ever there.
Yeah, like so. I have friends that wrote a superhero role playing game called Masks. I don't know if we ever talked about this. Huge fan of role playing games, and since I love superheroes and comic books, this was right up my alley. Now it's designed for playing teenage superheroes because like it was inspired by Young Avengers, Young Justice, like so many great teen books.
Okay.
And there's the one playbook, the Janus, and like their special thing about their character is they have a lot of real world obligations. So you choose 3 obligations: personal life, job, school. So I'm like, oh, this is Spider-Man. They admit it's entirely based off Spider-Man.
Okay.
Like, and Spider-Man is like the one where obligations matter. Like Batman has obligations, but like they are not the most important thing in his life. They only matter when the writer needs them to matter. So like when you're playing Masks, you can be someone that's not the Janus, and you could have those obligations, but they don't have the same weight as somebody else that's playing the Janus. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like actual dice moves when your obligations come into play.
Yeah.
So like whenever time passes, see how well you've managed your obligations. But they're the only one where they have the secret identity that matters. Like it matters. There's a lot of weight in the mechanics for them. Anyone else, you can have a secret identity, sure, but there's like you're not going to get bonuses like this character gets.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like the Beacon is one of my favorite. They're inspired by Kate Bishop because that was the author's his most favorite character. That's his favorite superhero. Okay. Like the Beacon, their whole thing is they don't have a lot of powers, they don't have a lot of training, but by gum, they want to be a superhero. Like they want to do what's the right thing, no matter what. Even if they're facing overwhelming odds, they're not gonna like. It's like Steve Rogers before the serum. Like this is the right thing to do. And like they've got drives that they want to achieve. Like, man, I'd love to visit a fantastical place or time, or drive a crazy vehicle. And so like you can trigger, and like that builds up to lead up more of the story, and as you flesh it out, which it's one of my favorite role playing games of all times. And like it's so like you can see how like the characters, the playbooks are tied to the source material. Like the outsider is like you're from somewhere else, and it's quite obvious. Like they're the Starfire, or they're like I've created one where they're from like the Hollow Earth, where they're like a savage barbarian type, like barbarian type, where like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot a bow and arrow at people, but I'll make sure like we don't kill. So like it's always like magical arrows that like hurt people, but like they stun them.
Right. Just
like
incapacitates them for a
yeah.
moment. That's dope.
Yeah, it's a great game, but like the Bruce Wayne conversation, I'm like, yes, you have this, but like that's not your main thing. Like,
well, I look at it because when you look at now, granted, don't get me wrong, Marvel has dark storylines within themselves, but I think what makes it different is this is gonna sound weird. I'm hoping I'm saying it right.
No problem.
The way they present it. Marvel presents their dark storylines colorful.
I get that.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally do, because like the 80s, after the 80s, the art style in DC changed. Like there's a lot of big events that happened in DC that kept making it darker. And like the darkest it was basically led to the 2000s or the 2010s when they put out, I can't remember the right, Brad Meltzer wrote Identity Crisis. And it's like considered, like, some people love it. I used to love it at the time, but I was also much edgier. But like it opens up with the murder of Sue Dibney. Who murdered Sue Dibney? And then it turns out, oh, well, apparently she was sexually assaulted by Dr. Light. And many members of the Justice League witnessed that. So what they did is they got Zatanna to erase a bunch of people's memories. And like, it was just like the bleakest, most, like, it's just, it's the comic that, some people say ruined DC Comics forever, because then it led to 52 and Infinite Crisis and the new, like, it just kept building up until like the new, they just, all right, reset everything, just reboot it all into 52 or a new 52.
Yeah.
And like he's like, all right, we got to erase Batman's memory because he saw us trying to brainwash Dr. Light. And it's like, that's immoral. We don't do that. We're the Justice League. And it's just like, then that led to the whole him building OMAC because he couldn't trust anyone anymore. And it's just like DC has gotten progressively darker over the years, but like DC from like 1939 to 1985 is just like, no, we're bright, colorful. Like,
I think that's what I mean, though. Like the current iterations, like you said, the current iterations of both comics, when you look at them, again, yes, like I said, I've been rereading the House of M storyline. That's dark.
Yeah. Totally.
The Visions. Have you read the Visions?
Not yet. That's Tom King, right?
Yeah, I think it. No, I think it's Bendis. It's sitting around here somewhere. It might be Bendis or it's King. I don't know, but it's one of the two. But either way,
yeah, with him, like he's dealing with the family life, but it was also,
and shit gets real in that.
Yeah,
and so it has darkness, but again, the way it's presented with these bright colors in front of it. Tonally, it seems different. But whereas with DC, when they go dark, it's just, you just feel like, oh.
Yeah, like, and it's the weird, like right now, I think it's at the halfway point where for half of DC's existence, it's been bright and colorful, but the other half has been like much darker, like you're going darker and darker. So because like, I think they've been around 80 years now. So it's just like, all right, well, like, that is a wild 80 years, but like, what else? What other medium survives 80 years,
This is true. And I mean, they're trying to make that transition, not just from the pages of comics in through their films, which is why, and we'll wrap it up, but which is why DCEU has switched tonally to more brighter films.
Yeah. Like, oh,
what?
Just reminder, it's like, all right, here's this date. Oh, it's just the trailer. We live in a society, Jay. Were you prepared for the Joker to say we live in a society? Like all the best movies have memes in them, right? Like, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Yeah, that came from a fucking YouTube video that they were like, let's just put this in X-Men 3. Like, it worked because everybody, if you saw the I'm the Juggernaut bitch video, you was like, did y'all really just do? I was talking to Luis Torres. I was talking to him yesterday, and he was asking me about that. And I was like, yo, I said, the problem, he was like, why does it make you so mad? I was like, the fans of it make me mad because they really think they are getting a full brand new movie.
I mean, it's
because they're like, he's not using none of the footage Whedon shot. Whedon did reshoots.
yeah.
He did reshoots. So
Yeah, like I mean, I just don't. Obviously, we're always going to be on the same page as this, at least. So, like, like this is not the cut, right? Well, he said an existing version existed. It did not. You shot a new movie.
that was another thing I kept telling people. Like he kept saying, he made everybody believe that Warner Brothers had the whole the Snyder cut done. That all he needed to do was release it.
You don't need. Was it 70 mil? Like it was a
80.
80 million to re-edit pre-existing footage.
It surely don't. He shot brand new footage. He brought again. Jared Leto's Joker isn't even in the movie initially. He added him to the movie.
And I don't know why. Like, who was clamoring for the return of Jared Leto's Joker?
No one. On top of that, he did all that, and then you got people sitting there talking about some hashtag restore the Snyderverse. At what point do they not understand? Walter Hamada has openly said, "Fuck that."
Yeah, it's
He
insane.
literally has a quote that says, "It's a cul-de-sac of storytelling going nowhere."
Yeah. Which, Snyder obviously led. I mean, like, hey, can you have brighter movies again? Can we bring that back? Like, I'm looking forward to the Batman, but like I will also look forward to when they make a Batman movie and Riddler's in bright green spandex covered in question marks again.
We talk shit about Batman and Robin, but
Yeah. I rewatched it. Look, it is very much Batman 66.
yes,
Like,
it is.
and I love that. Also, they need to stop. I know you're from Chicago, and I know many people that love Chicago and love it as Gotham. They need to stop filming in Chicago for Gotham because Gotham does not look like a real place. Gotham looks. You cannot you have to build. That's why the Tim Burton movies look great as Gotham because they're sound stages. The Joel Schumachers look great because they are insane and over the top. They have a giant statue built into a mountain holding an observatory. That is ridiculous. They have giant statues holding up highways. That is very comic book.
I guess because it's when you think about it, it's a financial thing.
Oh,
it's easy. It's easy to film. It's cheaper to film in a city.
Is it okay?
And just use the cities instead of having them build out a full soundstage.
Because I remember, I think Batman. No, there was only like one scene. They did a matte painting of Gotham. Like, all right, that's a cheap, easy workaround. But also, like, that's the thing. Like, the other thing I think is when you film in a real city, it's making Batman feel more realistic. When I don't think he should feel realistic. He's fighting ridiculous, over the top things.
He shouldn't, because that's the big thing about DC in general. The majority of their city stories, the majority of stories are set in cities that aren't real.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like Metropolis, I mean, actually, the movies versions of Metropolis have felt pretty Metropolis, not
because
like
a metropolis, a major city.
Like the big thing is it's on the water, and they've got like a giant, bronze rotating planet on top of the daily planet. And like outside of like the animated Superman, the animated series, where it's animated, so they can just draw the future city of the future. Like I think the Flash, Vancouver, they do pretty well for Central City because Central City, like granted, I haven't read a lot of Flash, but like Central City feels like their Flash feels like, oh yeah, this is a city in the middle of America.
It's Middletown. It's middle America.
Yeah,
but it has a big. It's like it has a big building, but it's not a skyscraper. You know what I'm saying?
and I think like maybe it's just like because I've seen and read so much Batman. Like Batman City feels the most distinct out of all the fictional cities, outside of like the crazy ones like Atlantis or Gorilla City or like Hub City is like I know of Hub City. It's like the most dangerous city in canon. The Hub City is a nightmare to live in. That's why the question is there. Yeah, yeah, the worst version of Gotham apparently. Oh, this is a fun. I don't know if I ever asked you this and through an email, but like since Gotham's supposed to be North Jersey, how insane would it be if what character do you think has a stereotypical North Jersey accent that exists in Gotham City? Which one do you think makes the most sense to sound like they're a North Jerseyite? Because Batman, obviously, he's been around the world. He knows how to train his voice to have that like newscaster accent. Like, because I'm thinking, imagine Selena Kyle with the North Jersey Shore accent.
Oh, hey,
like, I mean, yeah, she's got like she loves the leopard print already. So like, I'm like, that's why you imagine the joke, but.
Now you got me thinking. I'm literally about to. I'm about to wrap this up, and I'm gonna head to Earth 2 because I want to pick up a couple of books. I want to pick up the Eternals because I want to read up on the Eternals again because I want to figure out where they're going with that. And
wild.
I'm gonna buy Scarlet Witch and the Vision because I want to see because there's some other stuff in there that I know because I'm still putting everything together because
you've already. I gotta watch your recap, but man, that ending was so great.
Yo, because what they did, because this is what they just did. Yes, they told you it's Agatha Harkness, but what they just tried to do, and I guarantee you it ain't it, they just tried to make you seem like she's the big bad, and she's not.
Oh yeah, she's probably like working for like that. She's got that crazy book that might be tied to somebody else.
The Darkhold. That's the Darkhold.
Nice.
That's the dark because everybody was like, it doesn't look like the Darkhold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course it's not going to look like the Darkhold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And Marvel's like, we don't know them.
Like, yeah, we started to know them. We kind of don't talk about that here. But as always, I thank you. I was telling Luis, I don't know if I'm going to release these to the public as much. That's because fair. People, but for the people in the Patreon, people in the squad that want to talk to you throughout, if they don't talk to you on a Discord, they want to reach you through Twitch or Twitter. Please tell them how.
At Jolene on 00 negative. I almost said that was the old thing. Yeah, you can see me on Twitch and Twitter there. As per usual, I'll shout out another women's indie. This is one of the boys, Delmi XO. Last time I did Ashley Vox. This is the other half of the Sea Stars. Nice. So nice. Yeah, check her out. Check them out.
I love the fact that you always are promoting the women wrestlers no matter what. It is beautiful and it's amazing. And wish more people did that, to be quite honest with you. Just straight up. But y'all already know where I'm at, everything. So y'all holla at y'all for the next one. Take care. I'm out. Bye.